Welcome to A Slice with Dice, a podcast exploring the ideas, pressures, and possibilities shaping how we learn, lead, and grow. I'm Corey Alderdice. For over 20 years, my work has lived at the intersection of gifted education, leadership development, and school culture, supporting students as they find their strengths, educators as they stretch their thinking, and schools as they build pathways that expand opportunity. Ready to dive in? Here's this week's Slice. The University of Michigan recently announced a pilot program that will cover the first semester grades of students entering its College of Literature, Science, and the Arts. Now, students will still complete the same work, receive feedback, and earn letter grades behind the scenes, but their transcripts will show only pass or no credit. Those grades will not become a part of their GPA, and conventional grading will begin in the second semester. Michigan has described the pilot partly as a response to the mental health crisis among college students. I understand the impulse, but I'm not sure that framing does the policy many favors. Covering grades for one semester may reduce a particular source of academic pressure, but it won't resolve the many causes of anxiety, depression, loneliness, and disconnection that students experience. It also leaves the university vulnerable to a predictable criticism that colleges are once again protecting young adults from the ordinary demands of life. I do think there's a stronger way to understand what Michigan is attempting. Across 20 years of working with talented students, I've often wondered how schools can create room for young people to struggle productively and sometimes even fail outright without allowing that failure to define everything that follows. We say that students grow through challenge, but then we build environments where every stumble carries permanent consequences. We encourage them to take risk while constructing systems that reward those who already know exactly how to succeed. This tension can be especially pronounced in the environments we create for gifted and high-achieving students. These settings are often high risk and high reward at the same time. Students gain access to extraordinary courses, people, and possibilities, but they may also find themselves surrounded for the first time by peers who were all at the top of their previous classes. The habits and identities that carried them through high school may no longer produce the same results. This is true at specialized schools, where I spent much of my career, and it's certainly true at a highly selective public university like Michigan. The students who arrive there have often been wired tightly throughout high school. They've earned near-perfect grades, assembled strong activity lists, performed well on tests, and treated every semester as another component of a future application. You see, admission to Michigan does not automatically release that pressure. Many students will enter their first college course believing they must begin proving themselves all over again. For those students, grade covering may lower the temperature. It tells them that a B in the first chemistry exam is information rather than catastrophe. It gives them space to try a course outside their established strengths or discover that the study habits that once worked effortlessly now require some adjustment. The letter grades will still exist internally, so this won't eliminate perfectionism. But still, there is a meaningful difference between seeing an imperfect result and believing that result has permanently altered your future. Now, the students, though, who I think may benefit even more are those for whom the university itself is unfamiliar. And we often describe students as college-ready when we mean that they possess the academic knowledge required to begin college-level work. Yet academic preparation is only one part of readiness. A student can be capable of completing the coursework while still needing time to understand how to inhabit the environment. This first semester requires students to learn an entire hidden curriculum. They must interpret faculty expectations, manage time that is no longer structured for them, determine when and how to ask for help, and locate resources they may not know exist. They're building relationships, navigating roommates, managing money, making decisions about sleep and food, and learning how to care for themselves without the routines of home. Even things like the freshman 15 reflect something real about how thoroughly life can change when a student arrives on a college campus. And for first-generation and lower-income students, those adjustments may be even more substantial. They are not less capable, but they may be entering an institution whose customs and assumptions have never really been explained to them. And some students arrive already knowing what office hours are, how to communicate with a professor, and when to seek academic advising because someone in their family has taught them. Others must learn those rules while simultaneously keeping pace with a demanding course load. Now, at my previous schools, I often talked about giving students time to land. Students came to us with tremendous ability, but they were also moving away from home, entering a residential community, and recalibrating their understanding of themselves among an unusually talented peer group. Our responsibility was not to lower the standard, but it was to recognize that helping students reach that standard required attention to the entire transition, not merely placement into appropriately challenging classes. So that's the potential I see in Michigan's experiment. The covered semester can provide a permission structure, not permission to disengage or discover how little work is required to pass, but permission not to have everything mastered from the moment of arrival. Students don't need to understand every academic expectation, every unwritten campus rule, or even themselves within the first few weeks of college. But that permission must come with shared responsibility. Students still have to engage fully, respond to feedback, seek assistance, and develop the habits they will need when grades do begin appearing on their transcripts. And Michigan, in turn, cannot simply conceal the numbers and call that a transition strategy. The policy must be paired with intentional advising, early feedback, faculty engagement, and targeted support for students who are technically passing, but not yet prepared for the work that comes next. So the internal letter grades may be useful here, even if their continued existence complicates the promise of relief. Grades are imperfect measures. The difference between an 89 and a 91 may produce different letters without representing a meaningful difference in understanding. For one semester, emphasizing proficiency over that narrow distinction could redirect attention toward a more important question. Has the student developed enough knowledge and skill to move forward successfully? That should ultimately be the test of Michigan's pilot. Success cannot simply mean that students felt less stress, nor can the university assume the experiment worked because more students earned credit. It should examine whether students took meaningful academic risk, learned to use campus resources, developed stronger habits, and entered the second semester prepared to meet the university's full expectations. It should pay particular attention to whether the students facing the largest cultural and institutional transitions actually benefited. Now, some students will undoubtedly test the boundaries and do the bare minimum. Every educational system has students who look for ways to game it. But I don't believe most students arrive at Michigan hoping to learn as little as possible. The greater challenge may be helping ambitious students understand that growth doesn't require perfection at every moment, while helping less prepared students recognize that a protected semester is an opportunity to build capacity rather than postpone responsibility. The first semester is also a sensible boundary. University courses provide natural reset points that year-long high school classes often do not. After several months, most students begin to understand their surroundings, their learning habits, and their place within the institution. The runway should eventually end because part of the transition is becoming ready for the consequences and expectations that follow. Michigan's experiment may succeed, or it may reveal unintended consequences that require revision. That is what a genuine pilot is supposed to determine. But its most compelling purpose is not to rescue students from the mental health crisis or remove difficulty from college. It's to acknowledge that academic readiness and readiness for the full experience of college are not always the same thing. Students need challenge, and they also need room to learn how to meet it. Giving them time to land does not require asking less of them. It may be one way of preparing them to do more.
A Slice with Dice is a production of AlderCube. Thanks for making time to reflect with me.
If you're finding value in these episodes, I hope you'll subscribe and help spread the word. Until next time, lead boldly, listen closely, and keep pushing forward. I'll see you then.